Kevin Durant has become the eighth player in NBA history to reach 30,000 career points. They played against the Memphis Grizzlies last night and lost 119 to 112, but Durant put up 34 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 5 blocks while shooting 67% from the field. And he has officially become the eighth player and only second current player to reach 30,000 career points. One of my questions I have is how high up will KD reach on the all-time scoring leaders in NBA history? If you don't know, the seven other people who have reached 30,000 career points is LeBron, Kareem, Karl Malone, Kobe, Jordan, Dirk, and Wilt in that order. And then Durant is right there at 8. And I think that Kevin Durant is one of those players that, sure, like LeBron and Curry, their longevity is something that we don't really see and we haven't seen in the past. But I really don't know how many more years Durant will be in the league. He's someone that like with Chris Paul, he's probably got maybe 2 years left, three at most. LeBron probably around the same thing, 3 to 4 years at most left. But Durant is one of those players that he could retire after next year, or he could play for another 5, maybe 6 years if he really wanted to. So it's hard to gauge where he might be, but I think that he will jump up to be around fourth, maybe close to third, which means he would pass. He's only 1,400 points behind Wilt, who is seventh. He's about 1,500 behind Dirk, who's in sixth. He's about 2,000 away from Jordan, who is fifth. And then Kobe's at 33,600, and which makes him only 3,000 points away, which means he can probably get there, God forbid, bearing injuries in 2 years. Now, the top three is where it gets tricky because Karl Malone has almost 37,000, which means that he would be about 7,000 points away as of today. And then obviously we know the top two. Kareem has a little over 38, and then LeBron, who's still active. He's not going to catch LeBron, who's at 41,600. But I do think that he will get comfortably in that fourth spot, and he could maybe even pass up Karl Malone when it's all said and done, depending on how the rest of his career go and how long he will be in the league for. And my other question is, where do you guys rank Kevin Durant all time? Guys like, I think the only real current players that are above him is obviously LeBron. And then I think Curry is near the bottom of that top 10 or just right outside the top 10. And Durant is, again, another one of those players where he's got an MVP. He's got the 2 rings with Golden State, and obviously is now, cracked the 30K point club. But I really don't think Durant gets the appreciation because his 2 rings came with the Golden State Warriors, who had one of the craziest teams we've ever seen. And his MVP was, at this time, it was a long time ago. It was 10, 11 years ago. And since then, since those 2 rings with the Warriors, he hasn't had a whole lot of success for his teams. He's been successful on his own. He averaged almost 31 year with Brooklyn, and even this year through 40 games so far, he's averaging 27 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. And again, another year, the Suns really are not that good. They are 26th and 27th, and they're 11th in the Western Conference. Not great. They're the Phoenix Suns offense. They're 14th in the league in points per game. They also let teams score 115 points per game on them. So, and we know the Suns, it's a very sticky situation, and it's certainly not all Kevin Durant's fault by any means. But I don't really know where people will put him when it's all said and done. If you ask me, I think Durant is probably in the top 15 to 20 range, just because I think he is behind LeBron, and you can even have the conversation, but I think behind LeBron and Larry Bird, he's the third best small forward of all time. Some people might like him more than Larry Bird. That's fine, but I think he is the third best small forward of all time, and he will finish as that when his career is over. Because again, I don't think the Suns are going to win with him, and he he's had a strange career, as in people weren't a fan of him for those, 4 years, 3, 4 years where he was in Golden State. He left Oklahoma City to for the team that beat him, 3-1 the year before, to join the what was the greatest team of all time. That was right after their 73-9 season. And then you join up with basically your arch nemesis. You leave Russ behind. So he hasn't had the biggest fan base, but I think Durant is for sure a top 20 player of all time. And with that being said about the Phoenix Suns and their struggles recently, especially this year, being 11th in the West, which it's a hard area to be in because those are the areas where, Golden State is around there, Sacramento, Dallas, I believe, has dropped to around the low play in like 9-10 seed. And even the Lakers slash Clippers will be teetering around that line too. So it's going to be a hard fight to stay in the play in, or, even miss the play in to be a top 6 seed, which I don't think they'll do. But is this going to be this Kevin Durant's last team, the Phoenix Suns? If you watch our main page, the Hoops All In, I said this, that I thought Kevin Durant was going to be dealt at the deadline with the way the rumors were being brought up, and how the Phoenix Suns were built. They couldn't trade um, Bradley Beal, and they had a deal on the table to send Durant to Golden State so they could get Jimmy Butler, even though I'm sure they didn't want to trade Durant for Butler. But if that was the way that they had to get Butler on the team, since Bradley Beal wasn't waiving his no trade clause, then I really thought that he was going to get dealt. And with the way that this is looking, and the way that we see how comfortable Durant is with, if things aren't working out in my favor or at all, I'm fine with going to the next team. And I don't know where that place would be, but we see with these top players of all time, or even the top players now, like Curry had a horrible start with Golden State had a horrible start this year. They've picked it up with Butler in his last 2 games, but and they look a little bit more promising with him there. But Curry, I mean, again, like the guys I said that are current, like Jokic, Giannis. I mean, I would say it was Luka. Like these star players, it's hard for them to leave situations because they are some of the top players in the world, and every team would want them. But if you're going to trade them, not many people can match the value what they're for whatever they cost to acquire. And if you're going to sign them in free agency, you're going to have to pay the top dollar a ridiculous amount, even though they are aging in Kevin Durant's case here, where he's 36 years old. At the start of next year, he'll be, or at the end of, or yeah, at the start of next year, he'll turn 37 years old. I mean, he's still, I think, a top 15 player in the league. He was an all-star starter. He was earlier in the year an MVP candidate before he ended up missing time, and then the Suns fell a lot. But I don't really know that where Durant's next home will be because I don't believe that he will be finishing his career as a Phoenix Sun, which I think is another reason why people aren't as much of a fan of him as they are with like a Curry or a LeBron, or again, even some of the younger guys that haven't moved teams or maybe have moved teams once, is because he's fine with just, if something doesn't work for him, then he's going to pack his bags, go to a better situation. And fans, for some reason, don't like that he, he's trying to win, but he's not as patient as like Curry is, where he wants to stay and help the team build around him. He wants to go to a situation where he can be plopped in, and he can make his impact without really having to go through the struggling phases of rebuilding or retooling a team, which I understand, but I think that Durant just has. I just don't know where people will really see him when he finishes career. I don't want to say that people are gonna underrate him, because I think people know how good that Kevin Durant is and he was. But again, his fan base, how his career went. Again, it's an amazing career. He's a four-time scoring champ, 14-time All-Star, 11-time All NBA, 2013-14 MVP, a two times Finals MVP, Rookie of the Year. He was on the NBA 75th team, but I don't know how people are going to. I don't think people are going to appreciate Kevin Durant until he's already gone, which we see with which we saw a lot with people like Tim Duncan, Dirk, even sadly Kobe. They didn't appreciate the guys while they were there, and now you look back and they're like, oh man, they were one of the best players of all time, or best players in the league at their position, and they don't, they're not here anymore, and they retired, or like Kobe, he's not here anymore with us. But I just think that he won't be appreciated as much as he should be for a guy that is probably the third best small forward of all time and a top 20 player of all time too.